You got the game coming up on Wednesday. We'll travel tomorrow, going up there and play Wednesday night at the Leah Center. And, there's always a first time. And it's been a place where we have not played well over the
Mm-hmm.
years. Um, and it's a tough place to play because, like the Niners are really good at home.
Right.
Temple's very good at home. And, it's going to be a challenge, but it should be interesting.
Yeah, and we've been talking about that with the guys. I mean, you don't really. That's the thing I like about it. You don't really have to tell them, what we're facing, and that's all part of, every schedule's kind of got. I use the phrase "a wall of Jericho" in a sense. I mean, every team in the country's got a stretch of games where they look at that in their season, and this happens to be ours. But we just really been trying to stay focused on the task at hand, and part of that is when you do have different guys in different spots. Can you give us the best possible play at your position while you're out there? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 25 minutes? You don't know. But if a guy can have that in his brain to just give us the best possible play at your spot for that time you're out there, then that keeps the game moving in the direction we want.
Of course, Temple, part of the Big Five in Philadelphia, and some really good basketball being played this year again in the city. LaSalle is having one of their best years in a long, long time. And
Yeah.
you look at what has happened with Temple. Here's a team that's made the NCAA tournament in the last 5 years. They've been to 30 NCAA, so the tradition is there, and Coach Dunphy's got them going back to the NCAA now very much regularly, really, since he's been there. This is his 7th season.
Yeah.
But every year it's a new challenge, and this team is probably right now right on the bubble, but they've lost so many close games. They've been in a lot of games.
Yeah.
The Kansas game, a recent game they just lost this last weekend, was by 1 point to St. Joe's at St. Joe's, which is a Big Five game. So
Exactly.
it's a rivalry game. They're so close to being one of those teams that's in the top 3 in the league, but right now they're sitting at 3 and 4, but very dangerous.
Oh, extremely. And the typical Fran Dunphy squad. I mean, well coached. And I mean this in the highest level compliment. They play like a bunch of men's leaguers. You play. I was younger. You play against older guys. You try to pressure them, chase them around, make them turn it over. You could never speed them up. They all just kind of played at this old, that same old pace, and that's how Temple is. They don't beat themselves. The day we played Florida State, people, hopefully don't forget. And they handed it to us. Syracuse team is at the time.
Yeah.
Was out, top ranked. I want to say 3rd or 4th in the country at that point. So, typical Fran Dunphy team. I mean, they're very, very good.
Is that what you look at when you go play a team like Temple, is to see if you can control the tempo and get them to change their game? Does that seem to be the best defense you can put on them?
Yeah, and their tempo isn't all that different from ours. You look at their numbers and you look at our numbers. I don't know if you got a stat sheet, but their overall, points allowed and points given. I mean, we're not too far apart in terms of numbers. So in terms of pace, both teams run with opportunity, but neither team is particularly helter-skelter. But I think it's more about getting the shots you want and defending them the right way when you're on the road. So that way the game stays within the rails that you want it to stay within.
It's really interesting. You talked about kind of a men's league team where you can't speed them up. They don't turn the ball over.
No.
Under 11 a game. But what's really interesting, you look at assists to turnovers. They have 5 players with 29 or more assists this season, with all 5 being guys with many more assists than turnovers. That's rare. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, they do a good job just playing together. They're kind of a bit of a veteran group. Lee is younger, but you got Wyatt and Randall that are really experienced, and even their shot distribution. They got 5 guys that are all 110 or higher shot attempts. Randall and Wyatt are in the 200s, I believe, in terms of shot attempts. But those 2 guys alone are 42% of the field goal attempts. So even with all that balance, you got 2 guys at the end of the day that you really want to do a great job on, and that's Wyatt and Randall.
When you do things like control the tempo, does that kind of get a team out of its – I mean, I'm sure it works the same way with us.
Yeah.
It causes you to get out of sync, and you can't get the flow going. I thought that was one of the keys that we had Saturday.
Exactly, yeah. What happens when you're on the road, you'd like to really defend, really well, because that gives you a chance to get easy baskets off your stops, whether it's a steal, 2-on-1 layup, rebound, 3-on-2, 4-on-3, whatever it is. If you can defend on the road, now people don't like to feel uncomfortable offensively at home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, if you can take your defense on the road with you, now you can get those guys feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe you take their confidence away a little bit. Maybe not, because most teams are more risky at home offensively. So if you can take that away, I think that really puts you in a position to have a chance as well.
Talk about their offense a little bit. They do have 3 players that have scored over 35 threes this year. They're averaging about 8 a game, but that's not their entire makeup. So talk about their offense and what you can expect to see.
Yeah, they have some ball screen stuff going on, some dribble handoffs. When they need a bucket, when they absolutely have to have a bucket, the ball is going to be in Wyatt's hands, whether it's the top of the key by himself or coming off a pick and roll, whatever it is. So they've got good balance. Like I said, Lee's done a good job inside. The kid O'Brien is a transfer from Boston U, and he's just kind of almost like a JT Thompson deal. 1 year deal he's given them some 3-point shooting ability. So
and he's a big guy too. He's 6'9".
6'9", but skilled face-up guy. Our version of probably their version of probably a JT for us, a step-out guy. But they just got good balance. That's probably the single biggest thing. You got Wyatt and Randall you got to pay attention to, but those other guys can hurt you.
Let's open up the phone lines now. It's 704-332-0173, 704-332-0173. We know Tommy's out there listening, right? Tommy, he always wants to get that last call in that last segment, so we'll see if he wants to give us that call a little earlier tonight. Again, 704-332-0173. Coach, now that we're back going here, let's kind of rewind it back. Maybe some folks didn't catch the beginning of the show. We first came on the air talking about the win against UMass, and one of the things that you expected to see if the game got in that situation, which it did at the end, close game, 1-point game, last possession, you knew Chaz Williams was going to be the guy with the ball in his hands like Wyatt for Temple on Wednesday.
Right.
And what he had done this last Wednesday, he had the ball in his hands, and he beat LaSalle on the road. You guys were prepared for it, and Willie Clayton, he called out the play. He knew it.
Yep.
And then Perrier came over, and they got the steal. But take us through it, how you guys prepared for that play.
Well, actually, all the prep started the day before, and we watched the last 4 minutes of that game against LaSalle-UMass game real time in the locker room. So sometimes you watch clips, here's a play, here's a play, here's a play. Well, we actually sat and watched the game play out to the end, and LaSalle ended up just making a tiny little mistake at the end where they hadn't defended that pick and roll action the whole game, and he was able to go right down the lane and lay the ball right over the front rim. So safe to say we probably ran that back 3 or 4 times to say if it ends up in this situation, here's what you can and can't do. So, but the guys did a good job sniffing it out. Willie jumped out and kind of kept him in front, and he actually tried to come back at Willie. And Perrier, was actually now defending, Willie's guy. It was a bit of a switch. And so Perrier just did a nice job of plugging the gap and didn't let him, get into the paint and did it without fouling.
Yeah, that was and, you talk about it. You've got one kid that can really hurt you. And we talked about it with our scoring, with our minutes played, how it was distributed. And when it comes down to a tight play like that and you know who they're going to give it to, it allows you to do some other things. And, of course, their team is looking for him to generate something.
Exactly, yeah. Now, it's one of those anything but situations. And as the guys watched the LaSalle game, even when he got past the pick and roll and he's headed towards the paint, it would be like Chaz coming towards me, and a guy guarding a guy in the corner, which would be you, had a chance to actually come over and stop him. And he got so concerned that this guy might get a shot, as opposed to stopping this guy, that he fakes and goes back to that guy, and then Williams went and laid it in. So it's almost like, hey, make the guy pass it because anybody but –
let somebody else hurt you but him.
That's right. That's right.
I do want to ask you, and Matt and I talked about it during the game, you got the 3-point lead, 30 seconds, something like that. Was it too early to do the foul?
Yeah. Remember we just talked – no, you're right. That was too much time because there's a point where the clock is still your enemy. If you're up 10 at that point, that's a different deal. You're just trying to not foul and make sure that you stay out of the way of guys trying to drive to the basket. Don't give them anything easy. Stay in front of them. But at that point, I just felt like it was too much. Now, if it's 10 seconds, different story because now you're talking about getting around that half-court area. Not much farther than that, if so, and then you try to go get a guy then. And because how many guys have sat around that day after and said, "Wow, one thing's got to happen versus making the three versus he's got to make both free throws. Then you just have to make sure you get the ball in bounds and head to the other end and make yours."
Were you surprised at their poor foul shooting that they had? Especially, I can remember at least one. There might have been two 3-point situations.
Yeah, there was one in the first
half.
half.
They didn't make one of the three, and then one of the other ones, I think they made one of the three.
Yeah, that did surprise me because they're a pretty good shooting team, and the kid that missed the three was one of their better 3-point shooters, number 23 Riley. So, yeah, that was a surprise.
You got to the free throw line 26 times yourself, and 62% making those shots. Had E. Victor made the last two at the end, would that have changed what you want to do? There's still a lot of time. There's about 18 seconds at that point.
Yeah, that's one of those where that's the beauty of having assistant coaches.
Yeah.
And having 2 timeouts left is that, if he makes a second free throw, you have a little quick powwow and you talk about it. You see what's best at that point, because that's right in that bridge of almost enough time, but still almost too much, So, and they had shot the three great, so that sometimes it depends on the type of team.
If you don't have a hot shooting three,
if they're
team,
not a very good 3-point shooting team,
yeah.
That warrants into the deal too. But these guys at that particular day had shot it pretty well, so. Sitting here right now after the fact, good chance we might have, but that's why you have those assistant coach huddles.
Talk about some of the defensive stands. You had twice shot clock violations because you did not let them get a shot off, or it was a desperation shot that didn't draw iron. You guys
and he made another one.
Yeah, right, and the clock was already expired. But talk about how you switched a little bit. You there were times when Williams had the ball out top, but then Willie was on him or Braswell was on him, so he wasn't able to get a shot off, and he had to look for somebody else, and it kind of threw him out of their offense.
Yeah, you just try to just throw some different looks at him. Just mixing our ball screen coverages. I don't know what the equivalent would be in football. It's probably blitz packages. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your outside guys are coming. Sometimes your outside guys just set the edge, and now your inside guys are coming. So it's probably not all that different than Lanny's football days, but we just tried to mix it up because he's so good that if he gets a beat on you doing one thing over and over and over, he's going to eventually figure it out. It's like a good quarterback. But if you showing him different looks, I think helped keep him off balance just enough.
He's only 5'9", but he's lightning fast, and he can do some things that you don't expect a guy his size to do.
Yeah, no, he is. It's just that's our theme for the game. We just said get ready. Try to get back and keep him in front. And then once you get in the half court, just try to keep him out of that paint as best you can. If he does get to the paint, just try to show him a lot of body so he can't see what he's doing.
Coach, we'll take a break now. The show come back with more in a moment. Again, the phone number is 704-332-0173. We've got our technical problem solved, so love to hear from you here until 8 o'clock, Wild Wing Cafe University. This is the Alan Majors Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Niners a big week this week, going to Temple to take on the Owls. The only team will play home and home this season. They'll be coming back later in the month of February to Halton Arena. And then this weekend, a big game on Saturday, the VCU Rams come to town. I think this will be VCU's first trip to Halton since the days of the Sun Belt Conference. If I'm off, it's only by a year or so. I don't remember playing them once we left the Sun Belt Conference. So that kind of renews that old rivalry, the Sun Belt days. But here's a team coming in. Since we don't have a show before that game, we'll talk a little bit about it. But VCU, what they've done in recent years, their profile is pretty high, just like Butler, as they come in the A-10 this year. That should be a lot of fun. Halton has been really good to us this season. We're 11-0, a chance now to win 12 in this building for this the third time in a season. And out of the crowd for UMass was fantastic. It was about as loud as it's been in a couple of years. First sellout in a couple of years. And we're going to need that kind of atmosphere again against VCU. Here's a team, they call their defense that Havoc-style defense. They're turning teams over a whole bunch. That's going to be a wild night. So we'd like to have that crowd on our side.
Yeah, definitely. Shock, he's done a tremendous job there. He and I go back a little way. So it's been fun watching him have tremendous success. So, yeah, they try to get you. Speaking of tempo, probably totally opposite of what we've been talking about. They want to helter skelter it and shoot a ton of threes. I think they're around 8 or 9 makes a game in that point. So it's going to be a huge run pass catch game for us. Just making sure that we get the ball where we want it and not let those guys dictate the game.
How much is, when you talk about that type of offense, how much do you find kids that like that style of play when you're out recruiting? Do you find kids that have a certain way they like to play, or are most of them just the helter-skelter type?
Yeah, it varies. I mean, you tend to morph towards guys that fit your style. I think in AAU ball anymore, most kids are, most of those games tend to be, a little bit more up and down. And so then within all that, who plays the best in terms of what you like, within all that up and down. So that's why it helps to have multiple evaluations when you watch all these kids, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, 8 times in the summer, is that most of those games are up tempo. But who plays the best and who fits the best for what you want, within all that.
Watched their game against Richmond, the one they lost at the Robbins Center that went overtime, and it seemed like it was definitely a game of runs. And they're a team that you don't want to get on that big run where they can kind of, bury you a little bit. They never could pull away from Richmond. Every time it seemed like they were going to open up a gap of 6 or 7 points, Richmond came down and hit a big shot, or there was a foul or something like that. So it was a back-and-forth game, and it's been a little different, I think, for them in the A-10 than in the Colonial, because when we talk about the style of play in this league, it's a little bit more conducive to what they like to do.
Yeah, it is. And the game I haven't had a chance to see yet, I'm really curious to watch. Here we are getting ahead when you say you're not going to do it. But is there a LaSalle game? Because that game was in the 60s, in that range. And that – VCU would probably rather be, 70s, low 80s if they had their choice. And so for LaSalle to kind of keep them in that 60s, range, I'm really curious to see, what they did to keep those guys, off balance a little bit.
There seems to be more teams in the A-10 playing that kind of in the 60s style than teams that want to get up there in the 80s this year.
Yeah, it is. And it's a more physical league. I mean, you guys sit courtside. I mean,
that was a great game because they let them play.
Yeah, I mean, it's more physical in conference play. And I think, I always make the joke, and hopefully the A-10 didn't bug in my headphones, but, all the points of emphasis that they send out in the officiating video at the start of the season tend to fall by the wayside come January. Some of that stuff's not getting called as much, but that's the way it is.
As long as it's both ways.
Yeah,
consistency.
That's my
It's all
whole
about
thing.
consistency.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. If you're going to let us bang, let us bang. If you're going to make it touchy, then keep it touchy.
One of the things that kind of drove me nuts, and Matt and I talk about this sometimes at the broadcast, is when that consistency changes halfway through the through second period, and things that were going on, they're not allowing anymore. It's hard for guys to make that mindset change.
It is.
And know that they can't do that anymore.
It is.
And not that it's on one end or the other, but they just change the flow of the way the game's going.
Yep. No, because you start defending different, and you get on your heels, and all that stuff is happening. Something that might have been a hard hit in the first half and a no call ends up in the last 5 minutes of the game, being a touch foul.
Phone number is 704-332-0173. Our special guest today is freshman guard Denzel Ingram from Chapel Hill. He'll be joining us, brought to us by Ortho Carolina this week. We'll take a break on the show now. Come back with Denzel in a moment. You're listening to the Alan Majors Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. And our phone number tonight, 704-332-0173. The Niners coming off their win against UMass over the weekend in the homecoming win, 66-65. And this week, Temple coming up on Wednesday in Philadelphia, then back home to take on VCU this weekend back at Halton Arena. Time now for our special player guest segment here at the Alan Majors Show. We're joined by freshman Denzel Ingram from Chapel Hill, and it's presented by Ortho Carolina, official team physicians of the Niners. Visit their website at orthocarolina.com. Denzel, thanks so much for taking some time tonight to come out and visit. Hope you're doing well.
Thanks for having me.
freshman season now, kind of gearing up towards the final stage of the basketball season. How's it been for you?
It's been a fun ride so far. It's going well, so can't complain.
Being a kind of a local guy from Chapel Hill, state of North Carolina, getting a chance to play kind of close to home, a couple hours away. That has to be kind of fun. Your family and friends come see you as much as they really can find the time to drive down here.
It's definitely my family comes every game. They try to make every road game too.
Coming into the season, this freshman class came in with the idea of kind of turning things around, and you guys have been off to a great start. And you guys are 17-4 right now. Talk about the road for you and this team this season. It began back in the summer with a trip to the Bahamas, and where you are now at 5-2 in the conference. It's been a fun ride, but kind of talk about how the season's unfolded.
Well, so far, I mean, we're brothers now. We've grown to be brothers. I mean, we've had so many battles and practices, and off the court, getting to know each other. We've just grown together, and we became special this year so far.
What attracted you to UNC Charlotte?
The coaching staff. I had great trust in the coaching staff. It was close to home. I knew my parents loved to see me play all the time, and it was just a good fit for me, I thought.
We've talked to Darian and Willie about the importance of coming from winning programs and knowing what it's like to win and having that winning mentality coming here. How much of that has been a factor for you?
It's been a big factor. I mean, I've always been a winner. I won national championships and state championships, and it's just fun. So I mean, I feel like I fit in right.
Definitely.
You know, I've noticed that your game has changed and sort of evolved as the season goes on. You seem to have found a little comfort zone of drive and pull up at about the elbow, about the foul line. Is that something that you've seen from the defenses giving you, or is that something that was already sort of in your repertoire that you've been able to do here?
It's something that I've done growing up, and I'm known for shooting the three, kind of. So now teams are closing out hard on me, so now I'm just working on a pump fake, dribble, pull up, kicking out to others.
It looks like, I mean, I'm sure all guys have got certain things that they like to do or a certain place on the court they like to shoot from. And it looks like it just took a little bit of time to where that would start to come along. But it does cause people to collapse back on you and then open up some other things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like I'm just going to take what the defense gives me. If that's passing it to another team or taking a shot, then I'll do it.
You seem to have developed that confidence, too, around that 16-foot pull-up jump shot. Talk about the one you hit to start the game this past weekend. Did you plan on banking it?
Not at all. I mean, I shot a floater, and it just went off the glass. I was like, I was hoping it went in, so it was all good.
That shot, you talked to us after the Radford game about kind of being a field shooter, a streaky kind of field shooter. When do you kind of get to that point in the game where you feel like, okay, today's my day, I feel pretty good today?
Probably after the first shot, I can get a feel for it, and then if the next one goes in, I'm like, okay, because I'm more of a rhythm shooter. So once I hit one, I'm like, all right, the next one's gonna be much easier.
How about the pregame part of the game? I mean, when you're shooting out there, there are days you feel like today might be my day, but the game starts and it isn't. It's got to be different.
Definitely. I mean, sometimes you could be shooting and hit 12 straight before the game, and then go out and miss your first 4 shots. I mean, it's just the way things happen. Sometimes you just got to play through it.
I always talk to Colby about this, but I know you guys have little shooting contests during practice and such. Who's the best shooter on this team?
Ivan.
Ivan.
Definitely. I would definitely say Ivan, then Kobe. Yeah. Kobe's close, though. Kobe's close.
He is pretty close, I would imagine.
Both good shooters.
Talk about how Ivan came off the bench, though, and did play really well on Saturday. Gave you guys a big lift when you needed some guys to step up, and Mike Thorne as well.
Definitely. We needed some scoring, and he's instant scoring. He's open. We all have confidence in him that he's going to knock down the shot. So he came in and hit 3 threes, and that was big for us.
That was probably the biggest game you played at Halton in terms of the atmosphere and the crowd. What was it like?
It was exciting. I mean, it was packed in there. So, I mean, I love it. I love it.
What has the A-10 been like for you this season? The level of play coming in, I know you knew it was a good league, but what's been the difference for you coming from the high school game to now playing at Atlantic 10?
Probably the physicality. I mean, everybody's physical. Everybody's big and athletic and can play. So it's definitely different from 3A basketball.
Was there a player when you were growing up that you try to model your game after?
Chris Paul.
Why so?
Around the same height. Likes to use the ball screens. I like to use them too. Can shoot. Just local. I mean, someone I looked up to. Wanted to model my game after.
When you were looking for a school, were you looking for some place that you could play kind of close to home?
Yes. Yeah. That was a factor.
What about this next game coming up with Temple? Play them twice. Here's a team that Coach had mentioned kind of big guards, physical, which we've been seeing a lot in the A-10. You guys have seen a little bit of tape. Talk about the matchup this next coming game.
Well, we obviously know about Wyatt and his scoring ability, but it's going to take a team effort to slow him down and just to generate some energy on the road and get our road record better.
Denzel, thanks so much for taking some time today and stopping by. And good luck this week. Of course, Wednesday at Temple, this weekend against VCU. It's been a great season for you so far, and keep it up.
Appreciate it.
Denzel Ingram's been our guest tonight, Niner freshman guard from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, having a good season, averaging 6 points a game so far. And Niners leading three-point shooter in shots made with 18 coming in, as the Niners off to a 17-4 start in the season and 5-2 in the Atlantic 10. We'll take a break, come back with more with Coach Alan Major in a moment. This is the Alan Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Still about 17 or so minutes left of the show. Plenty of time to get some phone calls in. 704-332-0173. Niners at Temple on Wednesday. VCU's at Halton. Here at Halton on Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Get your tickets at charlotte49ers.com or call 704-687-4949. That's the ticket office number. Then after that, the Niners have a week on the road next week, which will be a tough one as well. The Niners coming off the win against UMass, and in that win, Coach, you got through it without Darian Clark, who hurt his ankle in practice earlier in the week, and you felt like he was going to play on Saturday against UMass, but probably could be ready for Temple. Is that still the case?
That's the way it looks, yeah. I mean, he probably in a dire situation could have gutted it out, but thank goodness for post depth, and just having some guys that you can throw in there a little bit. And, Mike was ready, and I think his swelling has gone down. He was able to practice some today and get out there. So I think he's in shape to be okay to go on Wednesday.
Did you guys learn anything with the minutes that Mike gave you? I mean, you know he's been playing well in practice and stuff, but it is a rotation situation. It's tough to get guys out there. But
yeah, that's the hardest part.
He had a little taste of it now. So,
yeah,
that must make it a little bit more difficult for y'all.
Right. Yeah, no, it's sometimes easier if a guy gets hurt or something, because when the Victor was out, that's where Ivan,
right,
was able to kind of work his way into the mix in Alaska. So, but no, I keep saying it's a great problem to have. It's just one of those things where you have to manage it from game to game. Sometimes foul trouble can get a guy out of the mix. Unfortunately, it happens. But, I'm just going to keep stressing for everybody to be ready to go, because every game literally takes a face of its own.
He really plays with this enthusiasm, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That one basket he made late in the second half, and he got fouled and smacked the floor. I mean, he was having a good time out there.
The ref came over and said, "Hey, tell number 12 to calm down."
He was just excited.
I said, "The guy hadn't played in almost 2 months, sir. Could you give him let him at least have his moment here. He's not trying to show you up or anything like that. Let him have fun." So
we got an email. We got an email from David that asked the question: when the 49ers play home games, the fans near the visitors' bench give the coach a hard time. How do you and your assistants handle that kind of that abuse when you're on the road and the fans are right there on your back?
Yeah, I'm pretty transparent. I mean, not as a person, but just with that stuff. I mean, you just kind of once in a while your hearing might settle to where you hear something. You hear it, but you're not listening to it. I guess that's probably the best way I could describe it. I'd like to have $5 for every name I've probably been called, but no, I think you hear it sometimes without really listening to it. But you just try to focus in on what you're dealing with right in front of you.
We thank you, David, for the email and
tell them thank keep it up.
Yeah, yeah. When I was doing that, I never heard it during the game. Mm-hmm. But if somebody was still on me afterwards, when everything quiets down, you come back out of the moment.
Right.
I only lost it one time. That's most of the time you just gotta let it go.
Yeah, that's it.
They paid their money; they could do whatever they want to.
Yeah, no, there's still we're still in America, and there's a freedom of speech deal somewhere they wrote about that. So some people kind of tend to bend that one to the extreme a little bit.
Coach, one of the things that went well against UMass was offensive rebounding. How much of a factor you figure this might be on Wednesday night?
It's been good for us all season, and we try to use a motto: shoot till you score. And we talked about that percentage. 33% first attempt, 52% second attempt, 66% third attempt. And if you can get to that second or third attempt, something good will happen. It's always nice to score on the first attempt because that's usually you don't have to worry about the second or third. But we've got multiple guys that can get in there. I thought Terrence kind of came back to life rebounding as well. Willie's a usual suspect. Braz had probably 3 in a row, I think, in the first half, right to himself, almost like a Moses Malone deal. So
I can remember one where he had 2 putbacks off a missed shot.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I mean, if we could do that again Wednesday, it'd be great.
Take another break right now. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. Back with more of the Alan Majors Show here from Wild Wing Cafe University. It's brought to you by IMG College. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. Niners getting set to take on Temple on Wednesday in Philadelphia. And then it's back home to take on VCU over the weekend. You can get your tickets by going to the website, charlotte49ers.com, or call 704-687-4949. Our phone number here, 704-332-0173. We are having some difficulty still with that, but if you call and give Bobby Rosinski your question, we will get it on. Tommy called. We expected Tommy, and we appreciate Tommy's phone call. And he gave Bobby a question. Lanny, what is it?
Tommy wants to know why there don't seem to be as many technical fouls on coaches. Are the refs better, or is it something else? It wouldn't be the case if I were coaching because I set the record. But.
No, I don't know. I think it's been more of a point of emphasis. I mean, the NCAA's really hit coaches hard. I mean, really, really hard on sportsmanship. That's been probably, that and bench decorum have probably been 2 of the most, either through video, through email, from the officiating people from the NCAA in Indianapolis. Those 2 things they have absolutely hammered college coaches with. It's just sportsmanship, how you handle yourself, and bench decorum. I'll have an assistant stand up and want to give a defensive matchup to a player, and the ref will say, "Hey, come on, hey coach, tell your assistants to sit down." He's not talking to you. He's not complaining about a call. He's just trying to work a matchup, or the guy that does the scout. That coach is going to be up more in that game because he's got more to communicate to the guys. And so, but I've had multiple guys this year come over and say, "Hey, coach, I need your assistants to sit down." I said, "Well, I mean, if he's saying something to you, let me know. I'll sit him down." But let him do his job too. So most of the time they've been good, but that's probably part of the reason why they just made a big point about it.
But I'm assuming that coaches know kind of how far you can go, and where you can't go.
Yeah, and especially if you know the ref. If you have a relationship with the guy, that guy maybe will let you take a step past somebody that you don't know. But Teddy Valentine's in the house. I mean, I can chide him a little bit. I mean, just from seeing him in the Big Ten, and he knows where I'm coming from. I'm not going at him personally. Just say, "Hey, Teddy, look at this." He pushed him in the back. Okay, it's over with. So.
Does that come with experience, too, for the referees on their side?
It does, yeah. And the better guys, the best refs, you'll watch this, really watch games if you really pay attention. The best guys don't get offended because they have such great confidence in their ability to call a game that a coach yelling at them or maybe getting upset doesn't affect them, because if they missed it, they'll come up and say, "Hey, coach, you're right, I missed that one." And then they'll move on.
Right.
Whereas the guys that aren't as good, either tee you quickly, quick trigger, throw you a warning or something, or they're just much more defensive just because of, lack of an experience, or, sometimes the guys get assigned to a stage that might be a little bit bigger than what they're ready for at times too.
When you look at where we are right now at this point of the conference schedule, this next game for us will be the 8th, so we're halfway through it. Is the league kind of playing the way you thought it would right now?
Yeah, it's we've talked about it in the past. I mean, it's gone from a fine line league to that line that's now fuzzy. You almost can't see the line anymore from one game to the next. And it's what I thought. It's a cowboy movie, and bullets are flying everywhere. So you try to shoot as many people as you can, try to keep them getting hit as best you can. But pretty much what I thought. It's just a tremendous balance and parity, all directions.
The road when we had a Rhode Island, I think, even went further. They went to St. Louis and beat the Billikens. They just went to Butler and gave Butler all they could handle. They led at halftime, lost by under 5, I think, in that
Yeah,
game at
5 or
Hinkle
7.
Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
So it just shows again how deep this league is right now.
It is. It really is. There's not one game or one team that could probably deserve to say, we'll be okay tonight. The game may play out score-wise where it looks like they were okay. But I can guarantee you that team wasn't feeling that way before the ball got tossed up.
I know that you get all kinds of film where you can pull basically anything you want to. Do you ever go back and look at someone that you played well against or beat, and maybe they gave a team that you know that you'll have a little problems with? Do you go back and see kind of what they did and how you can work it as far as your team is concerned?
Yeah, especially if a team is unique in their style. For one of the things for VCU we may play with is just, in the games they've lost or people that have had success against them, what did they really do? Was it one or two things that really stood out that were a little unique? And I think depending if a team's style is unique, you tend to do that more. Pressing team or, a team like a Syracuse that plays zone or something like that. If a team plays all zone, at some point somebody has success against them. And what did that team do that gave them success? How did they, get into their stuff that they were trying to do and all that. So, yeah, definitely. That's always good information. There's a company called Synergy, and you probably heard of them online. They do a great job with all that.
Coach, final couple of minutes of the show. Talk about, if you will, some of the keys, 2 or 3 keys to a win at Temple.
I think the big thing is carrying our defense in there, with our marching orders of having great confidence. We want to get back to being that same defensive team that we've been on the road, that we've been at home, and haven't done that really since Rhode Island. So it'd be good to get back in that mindset again. And Temple switches their defenses up. They got some different things they do. So man, zone, no matter what they throw at us, we want to make sure that we get into a good flow and get the shots we want, because that's when someone's at home, they're going to have a little bit more defensive confidence more than likely. So you want to try to take that defensive confidence away with good execution.
Another big week after Temple. VCU's up next. We talked about the atmosphere at Halton Arena. It's going to be a fun game. Should be a great college basketball game, and the crowd was great for UMass. And again, hopefully we can see it again this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. We'll probably have a couple of recruits in town, and so. But no, I think the guys are excited to play. I really do. And what better stretch of games? Sometimes people focus on maybe how tough it is. I kind of like to look at the opportunity there too, because it is a great opportunity to, as you continue to get better, let's try to find out how good we can really be. And this is a great gauge to see where you're at.
You look at whether it's a glass half full or glass half empty.
That's it.
And you want to look at the positive side as much as you can.
And there'll be a long bye week after it.
Yeah.
So now, we'll get to go back on training camp mode like we've talked about and focus on ourselves regardless of outcomes and all that. We'll get to focus on ourselves again in that stretch, and then we'll have Temple, after that long week is over.
Thanks, Coach, and good luck.
You guys made me look ahead. You talked me into it. Yeah.
As you head to Temple. That'll wrap it up for Wild Wing Cafe. Have a good night, everybody.